Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the B segment of episode 24 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation Undercover. We begin this segment with the Sector V operatives of the Kids Next Door chained up to an iceberg, and the delightful children from down the lane are in a flying vehicle with twin mace arms. That's the best way I can think to describe this vehicle. The delightful children are preparing to attack the Sector V operatives with the twin mace arms of this vehicle, and thinking that they have no way of escaping, Number 4 is about to confess his feelings to Number 3, but he's interrupted when he, and the rest of the Sector V operatives for that matter, notice that the delightful children's vehicle is acting up. 4 of the 5 delightful children notice that the 5th member of the delightful children had activated a part of the vehicle, or activated some other part of the vehicle. The delightful child in question is the boy with the football helmet. His name is revealed to be Lenny, and Lenny said that he thought he was activating the, in his words, hammer wacky thing. The 4 other delightful children, however, clarify that Lenny did not activate the hammer wacky thing. What he activated were the jets of the vehicle, sending the vehicle flying upward, so the Sector V operatives are actually safe now. Number 1 questions if any of his teammates happen to have any 2x4 technology that can cut through chains on hand right now. So the next scene shows us after the Sector V operatives have freed themselves from the chains and the iceberg. They're in a cool bus and they're on their way back to the Sector V treehouse. On the way back, however, another Kids Next Door operative arrives on a different 2x4 technology vehicle. This vehicle resembles a wave runner, but it's capable of flight, and the Kids Next Door operative in question is number 35. Number 2 opens the door of the cool bus so he can talk to number 35. Number 35 says that Sector V is wanted. Yes, Sector V's presence is wanted on the Moonbase by Kids Next Door Global Command. Number 2 inquires if this meeting can wait at a later time because they're exhausted after the experience that they just went through at the beginning of the segment. But number 35 says that this meeting is very urgent. In fact, the request for Sector V to arrive comes from number 274 himself. So the Sector V operatives prepare to head to the Moonbase. Number 4 in particular is excited because he admits that it's very rare for him to head to the Moonbase. So we then head to the Moonbase, and the Sector V operatives have arrived in the office of number 274. Number 4 is impressed by the automatic doors of the Moonbase, but number 1 speaks on behalf of the Sector V team to let number 274 know that Sector V has arrived. Number 274 greets the Sector V operatives, and he questions them about if they've heard about the Kids Next Door having a mole infiltrating the side of the enemies. Number 1 admits that he's heard rumors about a mole, but number 274 quickly clarifies that those rumors are true, and he hands number 1 a 2x4 equivalent, a 2x4 technology equivalent of a briefcase. He says that the briefcase contains the top secret files of the Kids Next Door, and he wants number 1 to share these top secret files with the mole. Number 1 says he understands, but inquires about who exactly this mole is. Turns out the mole is actually on the Moonbase right now, and the mole reveals himself to the Sector V operatives. The mole is actually Lenny of the Delightful Children. He removes his football helmet, and we see he's wearing a retainer. And it's one of those big retainers that you see in cartoons, those retainers that form a giant circle around someone's mouth. That's what Lenny's wearing. Number 4 immediately attacks Lenny before Lenny can try and calm number 4 down and explain things to him. But number 2, number 5, and number 274 have to pull number 4 off of Lenny and explain to him that Lenny is the mole. And Lenny clarifies that he's actually saved the kids next door, or at least the Sector V operatives' lives countless times in the past. Number 1 does acknowledge that Lenny's actions earlier in the segment did save their lives, so he thinks that he thinks they should hear Lenny out. Number 4 grumbles about this, but says he's still not happy about this. But number 274 clarifies that Lenny has some important information that can help the kids next door out. So the Sector V operatives, Lenny and number 274, are traveling through the Moonbase as Lenny is explaining that they don't have much time to act because... Lenny explains that he's able to meet them right now because the delightful children take an hour-long nap after missions, apparently. So Lenny says that they should try and finish up this mission before the rest of the delightful children wake up in about an hour. And number 4 thinks that they're just going to sneak into the delightful children's mansion. But Lenny says that what he has in mind is even better. He says that they're going to cut off the delightful children's coffee supply. Number 1 figures that this actually explains a lot. Number 1 thinks this explains a lot. He figures that coffee is a great power source to adults, and it would make sense that the delightful children would also use coffee as a power source. So that's what their plan is. They're going to destroy the source of coffee that the delightful children and presumably many other adults as well, adult villains anyway, so it'll give the kids next door an advantage. Lenny's going to help them, and number 274 wants number 1 to share the top secret files with Lenny after the mission is complete. And number 2 then questions where exactly do the adults get coffee from. We then head out to the ocean where we see a rig, and we see many co-workers are drilling for coffee. So yes, instead of an oil rig, it's a coffee rig. And the coffee rig is run by an adult named Cuppa Joe, and Cuppa Joe has a really big cup of coffee. Not just your, it's very big. It's a big old cup, and he keeps drinking from the cup, and we can tell that Cuppa Joe has had a lot of coffee. He's very jittery, I guess you could say. So soon enough, the Sector V operatives and Lenny arrive in a helicopter that's meant to look like one of the delightful children's helicopters. And while number 2 is piloting the helicopter, the other Sector V operatives with Lenny are imitating the delightful children from down the lane's voices. Lenny even compliments the other Sector V operatives for their imitation. And Cuppa Joe wants them to say the password to verify that they truly are the delightful children. They give the password sheep, but Cuppa Joe says that password has been canceled. And the coffee rig workers start to attack the helicopter. But then we find out that the helicopter is actually containing another vehicle, the substandard. So the substandard takes for underwater so they can protect themselves from the attacks of the coffee rig. Number 5 gets into a scuba outfit because number 5 is going to swim underneath the coffee rig and try to destroy the pipes that the coffee is being collected from. But before number 5 is able to actually exit the substandard, some coffee bombs. Yeah, essentially they're coffee explosives. They look like regular cups of coffee, but they're actually explosives, which Lenny recognizes. So these explosives work underwater. So they go off, and number 5 ends up being thrown out of the substandard because of the explosion. So the rest of the Sector V operatives and Lenny are forced to resurface and are captured by Cuppa Joe and his minions. Meanwhile, we see number 5 actually manage to... number 5 is riding on a hammer shark now, and she's riding the hammer shark towards the pipes, so the hammer shark can destroy the pipes. So she's still trying to complete the mission of destroying the pipes of the coffee rig. Lenny tries to attack Cuppa Joe while they're on the coffee rig, but Cuppa Joe has super speed, like he's incredibly fast. Reflexes, running ability. Cuppa Joe attributes this to the fact that he's had 6 cups of coffee so far. And soon enough, though, they notice something's up with the coffee rig. And number 5, with the help of the hammer shark, manages to destroy the pipes. But then number 5 ends up getting caught up in the trail of coffee that was from the pipes, and her scuba outfit is destroyed while she's in the geyser of coffee. That's the best way I can think to describe this. So because her scuba outfit, or the helmet at least, broke off, number 5 ended up drinking some coffee while she was in the geyser, and now number 5 has the power of coffee on her hand. Cuppa Joe realizes that he's in for a challenge, so he drinks some more coffee so he can fight number 5. So essentially number 5 and Cuppa Joe are using super speed all over the coffee rig, and Cuppa Joe comments, though, that number 5 has only had her first taste of the power of coffee, and he uses the caffeinated coffee kick to attack. And soon enough, though, the coffee effects wear off on number 5. Cuppa Joe says he definitely has a higher tolerance for coffee because it's intended for grown-ups. But number 5 was able to trick Cuppa Joe into landing on some... It's like a cream, like the kind of cream some people add to their coffee. He ended up getting trapped in a container of this cream, so it managed to halt his super speed. So number 5 manages to regain her bearings after the coffee effects wear off. And number 1 it hands over the briefcase to Lenny. And number 4 says they should make their exit before the Delightful Children, the rest of them, arrive. But then they see that the rest of the Delightful Children actually have arrived, and they activate a robot on the coffee rig. They call the robot Derek. But number 1 points out Lenny is on their side. Number 4 gloats about this, but the rest of the Delightful Children are rather calm about it. They actually question if Lenny... if everything went well to Lenny. They're along those lines, they question him if everything went well. Lenny's helmet, reappears over his head from his retainer, and he says everything went well. With the briefcase, Lenny flies back to the rest of the Delightful Children, and then he just slides back into the collective group of Delightful Children. There's even a rather unsettling sound when he's sliding back to the rest of the Delightful Children. It turns out Lenny was actually a reverse mole. He was pretending to be a mole for the kids next door, but he's really was a mole for the Delightful Children, so they could acquire the kids next door's top secret files. So the Delightful Children order Derek to send the Sector V operatives flying into the ocean. Number 4 admits that he can't swim, and he's trying to stay afloat, but the rest of the Sector V operatives have no problem staying afloat, and number 1 even comments number 4 should stop trying to swim. When number 4 eventually does so, he finds out that the Sector V operatives, are on top of another submarine of 2x4 technology. Number 274 appears from inside the submarine, and he questions if everything went well. The rest of the Sector V operatives, except for number 4, confirm that everything has gone well, much to number 4's confusion. Back on the coffee rig, the delightful children open up the briefcase, but there aren't any top secret files in there. It's actually an explosive or a bomb that's about to go off. 4 of the delightful children call Lenny an idiot, and then we see an explosion happens, which, demolishes the coffee rig. And the segment ends with number 4 admitting that that was pretty cool, that they were able to outsmart the delightful children. So this segment stands out in particular because we actually hear the name of one of the delightful children. In this case, the boy with the football helmet, Lenny. And as of the recording of this video, other members of the delightful children have had their names revealed in some way, whether it be in the show itself or supplementary material. There's actually one delightful child whose name has not yet been revealed. Now, I might as well go ahead and just mention them now. I'm going to mention the other names of the delightful children right now, just for the sake of simplicity, just in case I want to point out any of the other delightful children's actions later on. So, again, in this segment, Lenny is revealed to be the football helmet boy. A later entry in the series reveals the tall boy's name is David. Tom Warburton confirmed on one of his blog posts that the blonde boy's name is Bruce. And the Rainbow Monkeys website revealed the girl with the pigtails name to be Constance. So as of the recording of this video, the girl with the bow is the only delightful child whose name has not been revealed to the public yet. Most fans refer to her as Ashley. That's pretty much her fan name for most fans. Ashley seems to be the most popular fan name for the girl with the bow, but again, that's just a fan name. Her actual name has not been revealed yet as of the recording of this video. And I'll admit, when I was first trying to take a guess at the delightful children's name when the show first premiered on TV, I always imagined the girl with the bow's name as Emma. And I didn't get any of the other names right, or my guesses for the other delightful children's names weren't accurate at all. So who knows? Maybe eventually the girl with the bow's name will be revealed like the rest of the delightful children. We'll just have to be patient and see. But yes, this segment stood out because we actually saw one of the members of the delightful children separated from the group of them and got to see one of the delightful children act independently. So that really stood out in particular. And we did get to, Lenny, at first we're meant to think that Lenny is actually an undercover agent for the kids next door, but then it's revealed, no, he's still part of the delightful children. He's just pretending to be a kids next door operative. At least that was the case when this segment originally premiered. A later entry, the entry that actually reveals the name of David, the tall boy, that entry actually complicates matters even further, to say the least. The whole mole situation, the whole kids next door, enemy of the kids next door situation, it gets a lot more complicated than what it was here. I don't want to give it away just yet. It's a pretty big surprise, so I'll refrain from mentioning it now. But yes, there's a later entry that kind of makes this segment, it definitely makes you think, or you look at this segment with a different perspective. That's it. You look at this segment with a different perspective once you've seen that other entry. I'm sure you'll know what it is when we eventually cover that particular entry. So otherwise, we did get to see more of number 274 and his status as the supreme leader of the kids next door. And another detail is the coffee rig. Yes, it's obviously meant to be an equivalent to an oil rig. And it kind of fits in with the series' usual over-the-top nature, or the show's tendency to take things into an over-the-top manner, or present them in an over-the-top manner. And Cuppa Joe also represents that, the leader of the coffee rig. with the way how he drinks coffee. Because, yeah, the idea that coffee is how some adults try to stay awake, or that's the general idea you hear about coffee. And of course, they take coffee energizing adults to a more extreme, over-the-top manner in the show by saying drinking coffee gives you super speed and super reflexes. And that was actually pretty funny. I did get a good laugh out of that. And number 5 and Cuppa Joe having a showdown with speed from the coffee. That was pretty funny. And Cuppa Joe himself, I thought he was a pretty entertaining villain. Tom Kenny gave a great performance with Cuppa Joe. I think he really captured the whole energized by coffee feel for the character. And yeah, it's funny. I'm not a coffee drinker myself. I never was a fan of coffee, but yeah, I could find this amusing, especially because I do know many people in real life who love their coffee. But yes, this is Cuppa Joe's only major role in the series. He's one of those villains whose later appearances just end up being cameos in group shots. And yeah, it's kind of a shame because I think Cuppa Joe was such an entertaining villain. I would have liked to have seen more of him in later entries in a major role. But yeah, for his major appearance here, I do think he was a one segment wonder, or one major segment wonder anyway. But yeah, I did enjoy Cuppa Joe even if he was a minor villain. And otherwise, I think this is actually the Delightful Children's last season 2 appearance. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think they appear in the rest of season 2. So yeah, it won't be until season 3 when we see the Delightful Children again. And it was definitely an interesting way to finish off the Delightful Children season 2 appearances by having one of them act independently and try to trick the kids next door. So yeah, there you go. I did enjoy this segment for learning one of the Delightful Children's names. And Cuppa Joe was an entertaining villain, and it was nice to see more of number 274 as the supreme leader of the kids next door, especially when we take into account what happens to number 274 by the end of the season. You'll know what it is when it happens. I don't want to give it away just yet. But otherwise, there we go for now. So as of this video, we've now discussed the B segment of episode 24 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time,